Hey, Hal here. Just wanted to tell you we're excited about our partnership with Minus 33. Minus 33 specialized in merino wool base layers for outdoor enthusiasts, from tops and bottoms to hats, socks, gloves. And our gear is going to keep you warm and comfortable no matter what adventure you're on, especially those big woods ones. We're a fifth generation family owned and operated, a New Hampshire woolen textile manufacturer. They have over 106 years of woolen expertise, and they started manufacturing woolen socks, the Mountain Heritage ones, in New Hampshire in 2018, with the idea that a quality product, affordable pricing, and can be worn and loved from season to season, no matter what your experience level or skill is, so no one should feel uncomfortable or ill-prepared in the outdoor community. Having a reliable gear is one of the first steps towards a lifetime of passion or whatever activity it is. And my caveat to that is you got to wear your woolies. Cotton is death.
This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-host Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets to big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood. Sitting here with my cohort, Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And we've got kind of a rushed podcast tonight because the state of Maine and our illustrious legislative have passed a anti-gun bill, the first one in whenever, because Maine is like been one of the safest states ever, but they felt the need. They had to have some gun control here, I guess. So anyways, our guest tonight is Dave Trahan, is the executive director of the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine. And we're going to talk with him about, obviously, we're going to be fighting it with NRA and whoever else, but we'll let Dave explain it to you because he's got his finger on the pulse. So welcome, Dave.
Well, thanks for having me. Good evening. Down in beautiful Rockland overlooking the bay, and got some family personal issues that I'm kind of struggling to fit in the job and the personal stuff we're dealing with, but this is an important issue. And when I was asked to come on, first of all, I love your podcast, and I've been on before, and I just can't say enough about it. You have a big audience and you reach a lot of people, and they need to hear what I have to say. And I'll talk, I guess, we all knew after the Lewiston shooting that national groups would see their opportunity to come to Maine. And you're right, Hal, Maine is the safest place in the nation as it relates to violent crime. And that's consistently year after year. But, a tragedy is never a missed opportunity for some of these out-of-state groups. They saw their chance to come in here and maybe use the emotion of the Lewiston shooting to pass some gun control. And they really don't care, in my opinion, whether we're a safe place or not. They just hate guns, and any chance they can get to take some away, they will. And, well, I'll start with, there were a number of bills heard during the session. One positive, we were able to knock down the assault weapons ban, magazine capacity, red flag, some pretty horrible bills. But after the shooting, I talked to the governor at least once, sometimes 3 and 4 times a week, about the bills that were coming. And I kept telling the governor that this waiting period bill was a major issue for us. We saw it as incredibly harmful to the state. First of all, it's for the first time that I can think of in Maine, we would restrict people's right for an arbitrary period of time. And I compare that to telling a reporter that before you can write a story, before you can speak, you have to wait 3 days and have the government approve you to speak. Is that a freedom anymore? I don't think it is. And this is no different. The 72-hour waiting period bill, I told the governor was bad for many reasons. And I also said that I see it as an affront to freedom. When you use the emotion of a shooting like that to go after a community like ours, make us wait 3 days to exercise our rights, that's an issue. And it didn't. And to be honest with you, I wasn't anticipating this bill passing. It was one of the last bills of the legislature. And I was talking with the governor an hour and a half before she allowed it to go into law. So I was shocked when she let it go into law. But let me tell you what happened next, which was pretty exciting. I guess the voices that were raised in our community, the outdoor community, Second Amendment advocates, was swift. It was, what in the hell just happened? And it was, we are not going to stand for this. And so I reached out to partners at the Gun Owners of Maine, the National Rifle Association, and Women for Gun Rights, and said, are you interested in doing a challenge, a court challenge? And the answer was also swift. Absolutely. We are not going to stand for this. I'll get to in a minute after you get a chance to ask a few questions. We all said, yes, let's raise some money, let's pitch in, and let's make a challenge, which we did. We reached out to some lawyers in Bangor. They looked at the law and said, yeah, this is very broad. It is purely a waiting period bill, and we think we have a good chance to challenge this, particularly with the most recent Supreme Court Bruin case, raising the threshold for these types of laws. So one of the groups that I know you're very heavily involved in, Hal, is the Guides Association.
Yeah.
They tried to write a letter to the governor saying how detrimental this would be to the guides. It didn't seem to me, I thought it did, but it didn't seem to make any difference. It also didn't make any difference to folks that Kittery Trading Post was begging for them not to do this. You know, they're right on the border of a state with no sales tax. They're now going to have all kinds of hurdles to jump when you go 2 miles to the south into New Hampshire and there are no hurdles, plus a tax break. Their out-of-state business for guns is 60%. This is going to decimate that company, and it's very likely, and I'm going to say 95% likely, they will have to take that business out of state. And that's directly on the governor and the legislature, because they knew it and they didn't seem to care. And for that, if that doesn't tick you off, I don't think much will. They didn't seem to care. It was just part of their agenda. So here we are. What are we going to do now? Well, we met again with our lawyers on Friday. We've talked to people nationally. We have folks at National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NRA, talking with us, and we're all working together. We've started raising money, and that's another thing. The last time I was on your podcast, I saw the biggest spike in membership I'd seen in years. So I'll make an appeal to your members listening, not members really as much as listeners, that two things can help. If you want to help us raise the money to defeat this, you can go to our website. We have a button. It says Challenge 72. It's at samofmaine.org. You can click on that button and make a donation to help us. You can also join our organization. There's also an opportunity there to join. We need members. There's two reasons why we need members. First of all, it's advocacy, because we're going to make this political in the fall. People are going to know who voted for this. They're going to know how they did it. And then we're also going to raise the money to challenge this all the way to the Supreme Court. And we're going to need people for that. So I'm going to stop there, but I do want to return to how they got it passed, because if that doesn't tick off your listeners and Maine people, nothing will. And at this point, I'll stop just in case you have any questions.
My only question or comment right now would be, it's got to be unconstitutional.
Well, if you can start making people wait days to exercise their freedom, then it is not freedom. Freedom you wake up with every day, and you have the freedom to get up, walk outside, breathe fresh air, walk on the street. That's freedom. But when you have to ask the government to exercise that freedom, whether it's the right to own a firearm, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you should not have to ask the government for permission in 3 days to exercise that right. And I'm going to illustrate for you how important that is. Days after the shooting, I received some of the most horrible death threats and emails, messaging that you can imagine, that the blood of 18 people was on my hands because I'm a Second Amendment advocate, that some of these individuals hoped that Robert Card would come to my home and shoot me in the face. It's that kind of garbage that we're seeing in our political rhetoric now. I should not, and this is where I bring it up. Robert Card was on the loose for days after the shooting. These individuals just passed a law after the shooting, first of all, that could have been prevented by the same government that we're now giving up our rights to. At least a half a dozen times the government failed us, whether it was police officers or the military. Now, we just lost some of our rights to that very same government, okay? For days after the shooting, this law now, their solution is, for those that cowered in their homes with no way to defend their family, while Robert Card was on the loose with his .308 rifle, they're asking us to wait 3 days to be able to purchase a firearm to protect our families.
That's a fantastic point that I hadn't even thought of, David, but really, I mean, that really drives it home, because a lot of people, yes. I think, a lot of people, they don't think it's a big deal, you know. Oh, what's the big deal waiting 72 hours? Well, number one, going back to your other point, there's a huge difference between a right and a privilege. When they start putting things on, you know, then they're saying, well, it's a privilege to have a gun, and it's not. A right is, the government doesn't tell us that we have the right. You know, we just have it by nature and by God. So
that's right. We're born with it.
We're born with it. You know, I always say if a lion could handle a gun, it would use it, because it's going to use every means necessary, and a human's the same way. So we don't need to, you know, we understand that point. It's just the mindset, I think, that these legislators, which all these laws, all of them, you know, it's like legislators get in to pass self-serving laws so they can make themselves look good, and so they can have their power and stand up on their pedestal. Without enforcing the laws, they're doing things like the point you made about Robert Card, and all the warning signs were there, everything on a silver platter, and it was handled incorrectly. And so now the citizens, the free citizens of the state of Maine, are supposed to bear the brunt of the, you know, the action they're going to take. And,
that's right.
You know, on every level, but it was important to us to have you on here to talk about it, because people feel helpless. You know, all this stuff is going on, and even if you do have a good candidate, you know, chances are if the candidate gets in, he's not going to be in long because they're going to push him out or whatever it is. But we can actually do something about this, you know, and it takes money. That's the bottom line. It takes people. We have to be heard on this one. Because we're already turning into little California, but if this is allowed to go through, it's just going to get worse and worse. They're going to look at it, and these Bloomberg groups are going to be all over the state. You think it's bad now, yes. You know, it's going to get a lot worse. So also, if you could just touch on, you know, some of the things that people don't think about with the 72-hour wait and why it's important in Maine.
Sure. I'd love to. Well, first of all, we're the second most rural state in the nation. That's important because unlike a small state like Massachusetts or Pennsylvania, where you can travel to an FFL dealer to get a gun in 10 minutes and then 3 days later go back and pick it up. Now, I'm not advocating saying that's okay. What I'm saying is this is Maine, where you have to travel. Most of the people in southern Maine that may support this, they have no clue. It takes hours sometimes to get from North Maine Woods just to one store to purchase firearm. You go from, let's say, Calais to a local gun shop. First of all, we're going to have less gun shops when this is over. We're going to have no gun shows because gun shows are 1 and 2 day events. How can you do a 3 day waiting period at a 2 day show? It's impossible. Well, you can do it, but it's going to take such massive infrastructure and expense, it's not going to be worth it anymore. So they just wiped out gun shows. Now, why is that important? Many of the clubs I represent do gun shows, and you know, ironically, what they do with the money? They teach the next generation how to safely use firearms. So they just wiped out a whole infrastructure of good people training the next generation how to safely live with firearms. That's lunacy, but because these people would never own a gun, they hate them, they want the world to be purged of all guns, they don't care. Just like they don't care that they just wiped out Kittery Trading Post. Kittery Trading Post has indicated they'll lose $2 million a year. Do you think that's going to fall on deaf ears in a place like New Hampshire? Has no sales tax, and they're pro-business. I'll guarantee you that the state of New Hampshire's legislature and governor are all over the owners of Kittery Trading Post saying, come to our friendly state. What is Kittery Trading Post supposed to do? They have to have a bottom line that's profitable. The legislature and the governor knew it because I supplied them with a letter from Kittery Trading Post saying, please don't do this. You're going to hurt our business to the point where we have to leave. What do? They spin it and say that Kittery Trading Post has threatened to leave. No, that is a biased article by the newspapers. They never threatened.
Imagine that.
What they said was, they said, what you're doing is going to cripple our business. We are going to be forced to leave. That's a hell of a different message than they're threatening to leave. No, they didn't threaten. I was there. I was in the governor's office. I was at the legislature. These people were begging for relief, and these anti-gunners don't care. This is the part that all of your listeners need to understand, is exactly what you said earlier. They're already saying they're coming back next year for red flag. They'll be back for every one of these if we don't push back. But they just delivered a mortal wound to our community. Across this state, outside of Portland, it's going to have a ripple impact. If you are in a place in your life, a domestic partner has been assaulted, a neighbor has threatened to kill you, you need a gun to protect yourself, you're going to have to cower and hide for 3 days now to go get a firearm. After the shooting, it took me a while to get a firearm. I was scared for my family. And the reason that it was hard for me to get a firearm is the stores were cleaned out in a day. People were worried. They went out and they bought all the inventory in the local stores. I had to wait a week on order at A&G up in Fairfield to get a handgun. They just made that even harder now. There will be businesses that go under. There will be people that say, well, it's going to take 3 days. It's not worth it. They knew exactly what they were doing. They hit the guides right in the neck. They hit the gun shows in the neck. They hit Kittery Trading Post in the neck. And it's part of their overall agenda. They know exactly what they're doing. This is not a mistake. Now get to the part that, and I remind people that if you want to make a difference, your chance is now. I have money. I've told the campaign that I will do it for nothing on my own time if necessary, but we will get this. We will raise the money. You have a chance to put your money into something important that can protect your rights. Go to our website, sportsmansalliancemaine.org, make a donation to the campaign, and we will make sure we fight back. But we're at a juncture here where the urban and rural balance now has tipped to the urban side. The Democrats that are running for higher office believed this session that in order to get to the next place in their career, they had to sell out to the out-of-state special interests. There's no secret that the president of the Senate, Troy Jackson, is running for governor in a Democrat primary. He knows he can't get through a progressive primary unless he sells out on guns, which he did. He was supported and endorsed by the NRA for years. He's from Aroostook County, and he said right after the shooting that I'm going to be voting for gun control. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a political move to get those dollars. They now feel empowered and strong enough on the issue of gun control to sell out rural Maine. An Aroostook County boy should know better, but he put himself and his political career ahead of the community that he represents. The fact that the legislature passed it, let me tell you what happened. They didn't actually pass it. I was a former senator and a representative, and when this happened, I was one of the few people in the room that knew what was going on. First of all, in the House of Representatives, it passed by one vote. The Speaker of the House, in order to get the votes, told people to leave the chamber and take a walk. Don't even vote. If you're voting against this, get out. Take a walk. She was calling legislators on the phone, putting them into her office, and arm twisting them until she got her votes. Then when the bill went to the Senate, the bill actually failed. Most people didn't understand that. The bill failed. For the senators that were in the chamber, they're supposed to be in the chamber for a reason, not just to vote, but to hear the debate and weigh both sides and then cast a vote. That's not what happened. The vote failed 17-16 because let's see, 17-16. I think that was the vote. There's 35 senators, and there were 2 senators missing. Senator LaFountain and Senator Peirce. There were then 33 in the chamber. So 17 voted no, and 16 voted yes, and it failed.
Were the senators that were missing Republican or Democrat?
Democrats, 2 of them missing, okay? In order to get them to vote, they pulled an arbitrary, weird rule called pairing. So remember, the vote is 17-16, it fails. They convinced 2 Democrats, Senator Rennie from Lincoln County, my senator, and another senator, Senator Baldacci from Bangor, who should know better, to do what's called pair their vote. So Troy Jackson manufactures this arrangement where Senator LaFountain and Peirce can vote because 2 senators in attendance, Senator Baldacci and Senator Rennie, agreed to throw their votes away, to not have their votes counted, even though they're in the chamber. Now, think about what this does. Senator Rennie and Senator Baldacci can go back home and say, I didn't support it, I voted no. They're not going to bother to tell their constituents that I threw my votes away so that the numbers would drop from 17-16 no's to 16-15 and pass. That is throwing the votes away, not for yourself as a senator, but for the 35,000 people in your district you represent.
Correct.
That meant 70,000 voters in Maine had their vote thrown away so the Democrats could pass their damn bill to get that money from out of state. That's not putting Maine people first. And that story is going to be told from now until the next election because I'm going to tell it. That's not right. They should have done it with people in the room who didn't understand what was happening, but they didn't. They were arrogant and passed it anyway. So that's where we are.
So, David, going back a little bit to the bill itself, the law itself, it requires a background check and a 72-hour wait. What does that do to private sales?
They exempted private sales, believe it or not, and they did that because they can't enforce it. It is one of the broadest laws in the country. It addresses all sales except private sales. Now, the governor even said this a half a dozen times. She believes that drives bad guys who want to buy a gun into the private market without a background check. Think about that. They know that a bad guy who understands that can still go get a gun in a private sale. So in other words, between like a family member, you could go there and get a gun without a background check and without a waiting period. So where do you think the bad guys are going to go? They're going to go to the private market. They're going to go out of state. They're going to go over the border to New Hampshire and buy a gun and do the same thing they would have done in Maine. This does nothing other than hurt law-abiding people.
Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with Onx Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the Onx app is it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, a moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my Onx. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with Onx, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
Pine State Armory in Skowhegan is your ultimate destination for hunting and outdoor gear. Located at 338 Madison Avenue, we're more than just a store, we're family. Nick and Jess and their friendly dogs, Bailey and Ruby, are always ready to greet you. Pine State Armory is a family-friendly store where safety meets expertise. Your kids are always welcome. And if you're new to the sport, we're here to help with gear recommendations and the knowledge and information you need to get started right. Looking to buy, sell, or trade firearms, whether new or used, we have what you need. And to those who serve our country, we're proud to offer a military discount as a token of our appreciation. Visit us today at Pine State Armory, 338 Madison Avenue, Unit 8 in Skowhegan, and experience the great outdoors like never before.
Hey folks, Rick Labby here from Big Woods Bucks. I'm here today to tell you about our new packs. This is our new small pack, which the first time I saw it, Chris showed it to me and I said, that's the nooner, because that's the perfect pack if I'm getting on a buck track at noon. And it'll hold the sandwich, your water, a little bit of gear. It's virgin wool, made in USA, waterproof resistant, has a liner on the inside. It's a great pack. This pack, this is our newest large pack, which when I used to carry the older pack, I always wore suspenders because it bothered my hips a little bit. So we designed one with shoulder straps, and this is a great pack. It takes the weight off your hips, puts it onto your shoulders. It's got a GPS pouch right here in the top you slide in. Same deal, it's water resistant on the inside, got that liner. It's a perfect pack. So I go to bigwoodsbucks.com, get yours today, and I'll see you on the track.
As you all know, Big Woods Bucks is devoted to promoting the best equipment for tracking and still hunting the big woods. Part of that equation for success is the sights that sit on your hunting rifle. We've chosen Skinner Sights as the company to produce our custom-built BWB Tracker Series peep sight. It's constructed of solid steel, has our custom ghost ring, and was co-developed by some of the best trackers in the world. To get yours, go to bigwoodsbucks.com and click on the Optics tab.
So, so for people to help and financially is it? I mean, that's where number one, to have your voice be heard, because obviously our legislators aren't doing a good job of letting our voices be heard. They're muting us, I guess, and you know.
Can I interrupt you right there, because you touched on something incredibly important. In the beginning of the session, after the Judiciary Committee had been stacked with pro-gun control people, because there's a minority of Republicans on the committee, and they all voted the right way. But what happened was they changed the rules of the committee, too, to silence us. When I testify on behalf of 70 fishing game clubs, their members, and the 8,000 or so SAM members that I represent. They told us that we could have 2 minutes during a public hearing to testify on all the bills in front of the committee. I can't even read the damn title of the bill in 2 minutes. What they were saying to us is, we don't want to hear from you. The other thing they did is they allowed the proponents to go on and on and on for hours. And all of the people on the no side had to sit there while the pro side testified. They gave them all kinds of lead questions. They gave them all the time they wanted. They silenced us. That is not process. All that really sent for a message was, we don't care what you think. We're going to do what we want. Go home. That's not legislative process. That's silencing one side because you've already made up your mind.
So I guess I'll say something might not be too popular. It sounds like it was a pretty partisan vote, and hopefully this fall, all our fellow sportsmen, shooters, and hunters remember this. Remember what they've been voting for, and maybe they can think a little bit harder about how things have turned so partisan that you have to just. We don't have to, but better think about your vote, really. Think because by the sounds of it, they're not representing the people, you know. I mean, they're representing some people. They're not representing the hunter, the shooter, the everyday person. That's it. No, not a single Republican voted for this. We knew from the beginning that I had a good relationship with the governor, and I was anticipating, because I had asked the governor over and over again whether she supported this bill, and she always said no, and she had concerns with it. She illustrated those concerns over and over again. But when push came to shove, she let it go into law. And so she's got some ownership of that. I still will work with the governor because I have to, and there's still 2 more years in her governorship, but I was incredibly disappointed with the governor. She was an ex-attorney general. She should have known what was going on with this, and I believe she did. But her party pressured her, and
it's obvious because she didn't veto it, so she just lets it. She just lets it. Well, she didn't veto it, but she also didn't sign it. She just let it go. It's just a coward way to do it. That's a cowardly way the politicians, you know. And it's business as usual. And to Hal's point, you know, Maine has traditionally always been. It didn't matter what party you were affiliated with, Democrat, Republican, what independent, everyone was still sportsmen, and everyone saw these bills and these laws and understood that the importance of the Second Amendment and you know, I believe that if this would have never been anything that was born out of Maine. I mean, it takes big money from outside the state to come in and push something like this. The lobbyists control everything. I mean, it's just the way it is nowadays. It's a sad state of affairs, but you know, the only way we can fight it is like this. And fortunately, we have a Supreme Court that, as of right now, has been sympathetic to Second Amendment and to gun rights. Yep, that's right. And so we have to act now, you know, to stop it in Maine.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to speak to the importance of working together. The National Rifle Association, Gun Owners of Maine, SAM, Women for Gun Rights, I believe the Guides, and others are in the process of asking to join our efforts. There is only one way that this gets turned around, What happened at the legislature, I do not believe is the will of Maine people. If they understood the issue, if the process had been allowed to follow through honestly to its end, it would not be a law today. That means really it questions your integrity. What are you going to do next? SAM was created 50 years ago. We're going into our 50th year. We were built and designed by forefathers, basically, who said, we see the gun control community rising. We see anti-hunting community rising. We need to get together and push back. SAM was created to defend gun rights and to defend hunting. We have partners. Those partners, I believe, inherently will recognize the threat is not just to my members, it's to all of us. These people are trying to change the culture of Maine to better fit their New York ideas. That's where this crap is coming from. We were never the problem. We had nothing to do with Lewiston and what happened there. The government failed us. So we're somehow supposed to be punished and accept the fact that we are being punished, not for any good reason other than people want money for their next election, and they have to defer somehow blame for this onto our community. I do not accept blame for what happened. You shouldn't. Mainers shouldn't. This was one man who had a brain injury from many years of training how to use grenades and firearms by the military. He had a brain injury that's severe enough to show up in testing. He was indicating he was losing his mind and becoming more and more violent over and over again to both the military and police. All of those things went unanswered, untreated. His family members were begging for help, saying he was violent, his ex-wife, his friends, and they failed us. And now we are going to pay for it with a loss of rights? I don't think so. That's a powerful message. And whether you support gun control or not, you need to, in my mind, recognize that we are a nation of laws. We are ruled by law. And when the public loses trust in lawmakers and the rule of law, it's anarchy. That's when we lose control. People they'll lose their faith in their government. I'm going to ask your listeners, how many of your listeners out there trust the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the IRS? How many of you out there trust them? I'll bet many of you don't. Most of you don't, because they've earned their lack of trust. Well, what happens when the overall public, the majority, loses trust in government? They take things into their own hands. These government officials need to recognize that they have to earn our trust in order for us to live by the laws that they want to push. And if you don't listen to the majority of people, then you're representing the minority. And that's not how our government was founded. That's not how it's supposed to work. And in this case, they came to Maine. They thought they could jam this thing through, and little old Maine is going to push back. The only way we do that is with people to get together with us. We're all going to sacrifice to some degree. Some will volunteer. Some will work their butts off to help us. Others will give money. There's people listening that this is your chance. This is the way it's going to work. Gun Owners of Maine is raising money.
Is it Gun Owners of Maine or GOA, Gun Owners of America? Or are they the same?
Gun Owners of Maine.
Okay.
No, they are not the same.
Okay.
Gun Owners of Maine is a local grassroots, mostly Facebook. They do have membership, but they generate a lot of grassroots activity, just like SAM. We're about, I think, 6 or 8 times larger than them, but they are very vocal. They're hardworking. They're out there raising money, and so is SAM, and we each have a fund. And we talk each week as to how we're doing raising money. And we're splitting the cost of this case. And we finished up the documents on that today. So whichever organization you support, giving money, becoming members of one or both empowers us. It builds a stronger opposition.
So David,
go ahead.
For someone, because we never come on and do this. We don't ever get into politics. It's not something that it's not our platform, but it's important enough to us, and we know what the stakes are here, that we felt like it was important to kind of get the word out and let people know what's going on. So I think the first reluctance that a lot of people have in sending money into any cause is, all right, well, how much is actually going to it? So when someone sends money to Sam, is there a specific place to send it? Can you reassure people or let them know how it works so they know their money is actually going to fight the battle that we're fighting here?
Yeah. Yes, both organizations have agreed to set their money into a specialized fund. Ours is called Challenge 72. When money comes in, I channel that through our bookkeeper, whether it's online or it's a donation made directly to Sam, into that fund. 100% of that money is going to the challenge. We'll get donations from our members that help support us. If you buy a membership, it supports your membership. That money goes into supporting Sam. But this is a specific effort with all the money dedicated to that purpose. Every single dime we raise is going to defend us in court. It has to. We can't take, like some organizations, we can't take 60% off the top because we'll never get the job done. When we worked on the bear referendum and the gun referendum for background checks, I did every bit of it for free. I did not take a dime. I did not get paid for anything to work on those campaigns. My job at SAM, it's a job, but I do it because I love it. And I know that because I know that is how the members feel. We depend on our volunteers for nearly everything we do. These people are not being paid. Just like Gun Owners of Maine. They don't have paid staff. We're all doing this out of the love of our hearts because we care about the gun rights, we care about hunting, we care about fishing, we care about trapping. That's why we do it. But let me tell you, these organizations like Michael Bloomberg's, these are billionaires who sit in their palaces and they throw their money around and dictate. One person is dictating policy. You start thinking about politics. I'm not partisan. I don't care what party you are. Senator Hickman gave one of the best speeches. He's a Democrat from Hollowell. I have the greatest amount of respect for him. He gave one of the best speeches as to why he was opposing gun control of anybody I'd ever heard.
Interesting.
I don't care. If you're voting the right way and you're doing the right things,
absolutely,
we will support you. But there's no escaping what happened here. The Democrats passed this bill. It is Democrats that are going to get money from Michael Bloomberg for their campaigns. That's just the truth. If you're a Democrat, challenge me. Go look at the roll calls. That's just what happened. We work with Democrats every day. But that's the party that passed this. And there's no escaping that. So it's not partisan, it's just the truth.
I would think too, because they pick on Maine because it's a low population state and it's an easy target. Well, they think it is anyways. But the listeners also got to understand that they'll pick states off one at a time. If they succeed here, they'll go to the next state and the next state, the next state. So you got to
they're doing that now.
Yeah, you got to stamp it out. It's like a cancer. You got to cut it out from the beginning. You can't just let it metastasize.
Yeah, it has. And, unfortunately, they're doing this all around the nation. Thank God for the court selection. The Supreme Court right now, they say it leans conservative. I don't buy that for a minute. They lean toward the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and freedom. The Democrats are going to, when they don't win, they claim that the court is biased one way or the other. I'm sorry, but that, under our structure of government, they have been appointed legally. They went through Congress. They're a reflection of our country. If you look at the Electoral College around the nation, the vast majority of rural America, which makes up the landmass across our country, vote conservative. And then there's the very heavily populated urban areas that have a lot of population that vote mostly Democrat. That's what I meant earlier in the podcast. It's urban versus rural. And right now, the scales have tipped to urban America. And little states like Maine are paying the price for the violence in Illinois, the violence in California, in New York, Connecticut, Maryland. Why should the safest state in the nation, why shouldn't we be held up as a model instead of punished because those people in urban areas can't control the cities?
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought up the Electoral College. For anyone that hasn't seen what Maine is doing, they're pulling out of the Electoral College, or trying to. And
yes,
I mean, we have zero voice as a state when that happens. Zero.
that's right.
And
We will.
I don't think
Well
most
done.
I don't think that most people understand how important it is, the Electoral College and us keeping it, but we will be silenced. Basically, California, New York are going to run the entire country if that happens. And it's
correct.
happening in front of us. I mean, every day they're making steps. I think my personal belief, it's a war on rural people. They do not want people living outside the cities. They want everyone condensed. That's the long-term goal, in my opinion. And our way of life, they don't care about. They don't care about the farming. I mean, it's evident every day with the laws that are being passed. And, this is one small step that we can take to make a stand and stop it.
Yeah, that's right. We all have our times in history where we can make a difference. I'm proud of the position that I'm in because I can be your voice. When I tell people this isn't about me, this isn't about my ego, I'm a voice for a whole community. Hundreds of thousands of people in Maine love the outdoors. They believe in the Second Amendment. I'm proud of the fact that I can speak for them and I'm in a position to advocate for them. What I've found over the years is that instead of being able to do that free of hatred, I get targeted now. And remember what I just said, I'm the voice for you. When people send me death threats, when they try to silence me, when they say that I have blood all over my hands, really what they're saying is that you have blood all over your hands, community, because I'm your voice. And they know that. And that's why they're scared of us, is because I can go out and advocate for you and we're effective and we have power. So when they say they want me to be shot in the face, they want me to be silenced, that I have blood on my hands, they're really saying our community does. And there's no escaping that. There is a pattern. These groups, they went after the NRA and they said, we're going to tear you down. Michael Bloomberg said, I'm going to use my billions to take down the NRA. Well, I'd say they've been pretty effective at that. Well, now they're focusing on little groups like the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine. They've turned their anger and hatred onto us. Only thing I've done is advocate for you, and I've done it responsibly. When we start being intimidated or scared from speaking up for our communities, we're in trouble. So I could be honest, I don't really care how many threats they throw my way, because I know that I have people like you out there that are listening who want somebody to speak for you. I know my role in this, and I won't be silenced. Some might say, well, David, you're just doing this for whatever. No. If I wanted another job, if I wanted to go on to do something greater, I'd already done that. My role is to speak for you. This is one of the most important times in my career in which I can speak for you. And when I say for you, I think the other groups too feel the same way. Lauren LePage, Justin Davis, Laura Whitcomb, especially Andy Reardon, her heart, all of our hearts, I know, because I work with these people. It isn't about the money. It isn't about being popular or running for a higher office. These people are working from the heart. They're your voice. We all figured it out that working together we can make a difference, and we will. And so for that, if people want to join that effort, join our organizations, give to the effort, because we're making a stand, and that stand is for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. So you said how to donate for this cause, but if they do want to join Sam, how do they do that now?
Yes, they can go to our website, sportsmansallianceofmaine.org. You can call our office. The number is 207-623-4589. You can stop in at the office. It's a big deal. Membership matters. Every person that joins, I work for. Every year I survey the members and I ask them how they feel about issues. And that's how we take our positions. Whether you agree with every position we take, the only way to make a difference in our organization is to be a member, because we ask you what you think. So if you join, you become my boss. I haven't had a chance to talk about the education center that we've built. Not only has our opponents figured out they can get into the schools and influence minds, we've tried to promote the safe handling of firearms, hunter safety. And what happens is when our kids get into school, the indoctrination begins, and they're turned against hunting, they're turned against guns. I've seen it in the legislature myself over and over again, the bias that's against us. So I said to my board about 7 years ago, I said, we need to create our own school, because if we don't, nobody will. And we're losing our voice with the young people. So we created a 135-acre education center in Augusta. Inland Fisheries and Wildlife leases that facility to us. We also allow countless other groups to teach kids there about hunting, about shooting, particularly trapping, and any other outdoor activity that people have an interest in. We didn't do that because we expected to be the only school. The reason we built that, and I know the guides are doing it too, Hal, is that I wanted to show clubs around the state how to create a school of their own. The 70 clubs that we partner with, if half of those create their own little education programs, we've multiplied our footprint and we've reached kids from around the state. We must do that. It's hard work, but we must invest in the next generation, because people like Michael Bloomberg, they have endless resources to do that. And I would bet my life savings that if you introduce a kid, a young person, to the things that we care about in the outdoors, they're going to instantly love it. How can you not love the environment, the wildlife, walking in the woods, 6:30 in the morning, getting up and trolling on the lake? Kids will instantly love it, whether it's responsibly shooting a firearm, competitive shooting and archery. Kids love it. And I see this effort to create this waiting period is an attempt to undermine that wonderful experience in the outdoors. It's creating barriers to the next generation, getting access to these things. They're after our culture, just like they were in the background check effort, where they wanted to stop you at camp from letting a friend use your firearm. Remember that?
Yep.
They wanted to put that barrier in place where you had to do a background check to let your friend try out your 12-gauge shotgun. If you don't see the pattern, you're blind, or you don't want to see it. But they're after our culture, and this is where we have to stop them.
That is true. It's not just guns; it's culture. It's our way of life. And I can tell you tomorrow I'll be a new member of Gun Owners of Maine, because I don't belong to Gun Owners of Maine. I was a member of Gun Owners of America, but to be honest, I wasn't aware of Gun Owners of Maine. So I'll be a member of that tomorrow and have my SAM membership. And I would just say to everyone listening, join them. Join SAM, join Gun Owners of Maine, show them that there is people out there that are listening that, are behind the efforts to stop this.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a resident to join SAM or any of them, but there's a lot of people that come here to hunt and vacation and all of that, and if they want to be a member just to help support, that'd be great too.
And SAM is helping to save the deer yards as well. So for guys that aren't as tuned up about the guns, well, there's the deer yards too. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're up to 11. We're up to 11,000 acres, and you know that. I was on your podcast. We talked about it, and I can tell you, there's There's about 50,000 acres out there that they're negotiating on. Some of it's in your area, Hal. You know, in our generation, it's my hope that we'll eventually reach 100,000 acres of protected deer yards. That's the goal. We're going to resurrect that effort next session. I'm helping to negotiate a very serious chunk of change that could go into the trust fund to buy those deer yards. And we need to resurrect that next year. I don't want to lose any momentum, but we're losing our forest. We're losing it to renewable energy development. I don't know if your listeners are watching all of these solar projects and power lines and wind projects going in, and we need to strike a balance. We need some renewable, but we need our habitat, or Maine's not going to look the same anymore. That's just going to be like every other state out there.
Yeah, the craziest thing I've seen in the last year or so is they cut down all the trees and the rotaries and the medians on the main turnpike and paved them with solar panels. And the first thing you see is Maine vacation land. Welcome to Maine vacation land. It's all you see is solar panels along the highway.
Yeah, this is a fad, I believe, and that's gonna peter out eventually because Maine people are gonna lose their patience. I see fields where I've hunted as a kid down in the Albion Benton area. There's a massive project going on down there. I used to hunt in the Albion Benton area. Now you can't even get in there. There's 8-foot fences and it's covered in solar.
Yeah.
And we're going to.
Yeah. How many animals does that displace?
It displaces everyone that walks on 2 or 4 legs. Yeah. If people say, well, it's only 285 acres. Well, when you multiply that over the entire state, it becomes a lot of acreage.
Yeah.
And we did pass. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's cheaper to put the solar panels on everybody's roof and let them have power at their home than do what they're doing and ruining stuff. I did it to mine. I bought solar panels for my roof. I put them on the garage. I didn't tell you this, Joe. My bill this last month was $21, and I think that's the delivery charge. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things like that make sense in places. It doesn't make sense covering over all the woods. You know.
Well, you're covering also the fields where you grow your food.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
There's only so much land to grow your food. This country's, gaining population all the time with immigration. Where are we going to put the 10 million people that have come in?
We're not going down the immigration road, David.
I'm not anti-immigration. What I am is pro-people.
Yeah.
If they're here and we need to feed them, how can we justify for one utility, that is to power your home and to bring electricity to your family, but at the same time you're covering over the place you grow your food? I'm a policy person. I don't care about as much my family came from Quebec, and we came to Maine, and we started families here. I 100% support that, but I also support the resources being available to feed and to house your family, and you got to have both. And so I believe in responsible policy, and that's what I'm talking about. We're making a smaller world.
Yeah,
it can all be fixed with voting. Vote them out.
That's
the
right.
ones that's destroying things, vote them out.
and it doesn't matter about party affiliation. I mean, in that specific bill, it was Republicans versus Democrat, but that's not the point here because there's just as many bad Republicans as there are bad Democrats. I mean, it's
well, that's right.
I mean, it's both sides of the aisle. So,
you know what the problem is there is that each party the extremes of both parties are growing. Whether it's progressive or extreme right, you are exactly right. The people in the middle that best represent the flavor of Maine across the whole state of Maine are getting smaller. And that's because of all of the money in politics now. The amount of money that is pouring in from these out-of-state efforts is just mind-boggling, and it's just corrupting our system.
I don't think out-of-state money should come to any of the candidates in Maine.
I agree with that. I'm part of a national
not for state candidates. You know, it's different at the federal level, but even that I don't think it should be done. But certainly not for the state politicians.
No, that's right. I'm part of a national effort to amend the Constitution to limit out-of-state money. And I've been asked to go to Washington this summer and speak to Congress and others. And I was hesitating whether I would go or not, but I'm going to, because I do think it's the one issue that's corrupting our system. And we got to get it under control if we want to be governed by the vote, by the individual. We have to do something. So you've made up my mind. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to speak to folks down there.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All
right, David.
Well, this was a good conversation, and I appreciate you bringing everybody up to speed on it. And
all right.
So keep us posted, and we'll talk later.
Okay, and go to that website, contribute to the campaign, or join, one or the other, or both.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, David.
All right. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye.
Guess we know what's going on a little bit better now. It was interesting to note that it's not affecting private sales. I didn't realize that because I haven't read it because it just came about here. But
well, gun show sales, which
no, but I mean, like I can still sell you a gun.
Right.
It is.
They wanted that. That was part of it, but
yeah, it was. It's still affecting the gun shows and all that. Because I mean, at the gun show, everybody thinks at gun shows you just go and buy guns and they're not registered, or you don't need a background check. But you do at the gun shows. The people have the FFLs that are selling them there, and they just do it. You can do it online now. They just do it on the computer, but those are all background checked. But they're trying to. That's what they're trying to do is pick away at all of that stuff. The antis have been after gun shows. They call it the gun show loophole. Remember? They've been nationally after that for years. You know.
It's funny. They're always trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, it's either that or they're trying to fix one they created because they created the one that caused the shooting in Maine last year. They created that by not doing what they were supposed to do as a government to take care of that guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that most people don't know because they wanted to sweep it under the rug that bowling alley that he started shooting in had a big sign on the door, gun-free zone. Right. And there was guys in there, ex-military and stuff, that said after the fact that they could have stopped them if they had their guns. They wouldn't have got anywhere. Yeah. So, you see, it's all, they create a problem and then they got to pass some more laws to try to fix the problem they create, you know?
Right.
Too much government.
So, anyway, you know where we stand.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna donate money to the cause. I mean, $10, $20, it doesn't take a lot. Just every little bit helps. And you know, if people listen to this, if part of you guys donate and you know another group does, every little bit helps. And that's how you beat these things. So got to do something. Got to do something. If we sit back, it's you know, then we're really going to be fighting literally.
Yeah. Got to nip it in the bud when it gets beginning before it gets too, just like I said, it's like a cancer. You got to get rid of it from the beginning. Got to cut it right out.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be heading for the woods again pretty quick here in another 2 days. Next group of deer clinic people.
First clinic was last week, right?
Last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, last weekend.
Went good. Saw a little buck sign here and there.
My God, man! The deer sign I've been seeing, the deer sign is everywhere right now. I mean,
I know. Well, not just the sign. I drive every time I drive up the road. There's deer jumping across.
Yeah.
I remember back. Well, I moved up here. I've been coming up here since '80, but I moved up in '91, and I remember traveling even back in the '90s when we still had a lot of deer. You know, before some of the die-offs and stuff and the deer yards being cut. I mean, some of them were cut, but I remember you saw a lot of moose back then because there was tons of moose in the 90s and early 2000s, but you didn't really see a lot of deer traveling, you know, along the roads and stuff. But man, you do now. I mean, you almost can't go anywhere, on a logging road or even up the highway here without seeing deer,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of them around. And
Good signs for the upcoming season, hopefully.
yeah. Still got a couple openings for first week and a couple for Thanksgiving week. Everybody's holding off, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll fill up. It always does.
Well, we're going to be hunting whether there's openings or not. So
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, all right then. Till next time. You got anything else to say?
No, that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Till next time. Good luck on the trail.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hi everyone, team member Mark Sheeran here. Are you or someone you know struggling with a drug or alcohol problem but you don't want to go to rehab or 12-step meetings? Well, that's exactly why we created our non-12-step Freedom Model Coaching Program. In our program, you can be coached by me and Michelle Dunbar through our in-house 2-day addiction solution workshop, or if you want to stay home, you can be coached through video conferencing on Zoom. Both options are powerful and proven effective. We've personally coached more than 27,000 people over the last 34 years. With the Freedom Model, you won't have any record of being treated for an addiction either. This is a huge benefit for those with professional licenses, or who are high profile, or simply who have a lot to lose with such a damaging label. If you're ready to change your life and solve your addiction for good, call me directly at 888-424-2626 and set up your free 30-minute coaching session today. I look forward to helping you. And here's that number again, 888-424-2626. Take care.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.